So welcome back. This is the last session of this day. I hope you really enjoy until now. This is strategic asset management session, and I really wanted to have this session because I strongly believe that asset manager play a critical role in this digitalization, because they are in the place where they can demand the supply chain to be open, to be more digital, to be more BIM. So we will hear the voice of 4 different big stakeholders. 2 are from Italy and 2 are international. But before going to that, I really would like to start this session hearing the voice of one of the key person of buildingSMART International. And personally, I'm curious to understand, to know if and how the asset manager was part of this community, if they were always involved or if something is happening now, and what to expect, if it's something that we should be more active in getting their interest. So I will ask Richard Kelly to introduce this session, giving his view on this topic, and to give us something to start the discussion. Please, Richard.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Do I press it again or do I wait? There we are. Right, well, good afternoon, everybody. I am Richard Kelly. I work for buildingSMART International. I have the best job in the world, and the reason it's the best job in the world is I get to work delivering my sense of purpose, which is to improve the built asset industry with like-minded people from all over the world, and that is the buildingSMART International community. Everybody here, and many people who are not here this afternoon, but are watching us online from around the world. The reason that buildingSMART International is creating open neutral standards for information sharing is because the industry at large faces some massive challenges. These challenges are to do with cost and return on investment and performance expectations. And client organizations that are pursuing true asset management are under a lot of pressure to respond to all of these things. And the other thing that they're under a lot of pressure to respond to, as we now all know, are the impacts on this planet. We know the population of the world is growing, and we know that there is going to be increased urbanization. So how we act now affects our future living spaces in order to achieve sustainable cities for the future and the very near future. So we have some monster challenges, and these monster challenges can only be overcome with massive global cooperation. And this cooperation has to transcend political and national boundaries. And buildingSMART International is the community that does this. We now know from the presentations that you've seen today that we have representation in many, many countries around the world and from many, many different organizations, all of whom have got this common sense of purpose. So we're creating connected data solutions. We know that there are some major statistics around this problem. We know that 39% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from the built asset industry. We are told that many organizations only have access to 1% of their useful data. And actually, I think we all know that productivity in the construction sector remains woeful. So the task before us is very, very important. Asset management requires a bit of a definition at this point. Asset management is the systematic approach to cost, performance and risk throughout the whole life cycle of an asset, a built asset or whatever. And that includes all aspects of that particular facility or group of facilities, portfolio of facilities, or whatever it may be. And effective asset management requires information that is structured, timely, accurate, and available at all levels. Again, whether it's the portfolio, whether it's an individual building or a particular road, or subsystems within that, or even products within that. And it also requires it throughout its whole life cycle. So what we're aspiring to achieve is a clear line of sight from the organizational objectives of a particular organization through their asset plans and down to the business of doing design, build, operate and dispose and repurposing, increasingly repurposing, to be able to have circular carbon. So ecosystems of connected data allow capital project teams and operational teams to share the same core values, and often in business at the moment, capital and operations are separate. They have a CapEx budget, they have the OpEx budget, and never the twain shall meet. So being able to think in a TOTEX, a total expenditure way, is very, very important. And wherever an organization is in the asset management supply chain, whatever the stage of that life cycle of a particular asset, the right people need the right information with the appropriate level of detail to make use of it. And that will lead to better decision making. Better decision making regarding the design, more innovative designs, more airtight designs, more insulated designs, balanced with the cost of that, because you'll be able to look at the total expenditure, not just the build expenditure. The build approach, the functionality, the performance, the criticality of certain items which need specific attention, which can be less worried about, and of course the predicted performance, because we don't know, it is impossible to say at this end of a 50-year life cycle how much the asset is going to cost you by the end unless you have good data to be able to make those decisions, and currently that's very, very hard. So the task before us is very, very hard. However, as we have seen this morning, or heard this morning, there are a great number, or an increasing number of good examples of better asset management. And I hope we're going to hear some examples shortly as well. But there's a couple of other examples I'm going to share with you now that are in our portfolio. The Pontsteiger building in Amsterdam, it's an apartment building of luxury and key worker homes, featured in one of our case studies. Lex, who was on that project, is in the audience today. And the decision to build to an enhanced level of quality within the original budget was enabled by having all the building information available before production started. And it was delivered almost entirely using off-site solutions through the management of hundreds of dynamic models that was only possible due to the use of open BIM processing collaboration. Another example, closer to where we are today, is the Naples railway station, and Ernesto is in the audience as well. And this is another case study that we have published. The whole life value assessment solution of this operations allows decision of new facilities to be built and how they integrate with existing ones, because existing assets are a big issue for most of the world, if not all of the world. So how the new facilities integrate with their existing ones in their facilities management system. And this was only possible through project teams achieving interoperability through the use of buildingSMART open BIM standards. So in a scenario where it's possible to identify all building elements in terms of their geometry, their performance, the work that they do, and the materials they're made from, it becomes possible to understand the interrelationship between the surroundings of that thing and all the other connected products in the overall asset. And this gives us the ability to create multiple connected data environments. And that gets us closer to what we might describe as a digital twin. So a true digital twin probably gives us real-life updates on what is happening and how it's performing at any particular moment in time. And having a coherent digital ecosystem will inspire the creation and the installation of back indication devices. Now, software-agnostic solutions are developing rapidly based on open BIM standards now. We're hearing it, we're seeing it, we're being shown examples of it. And having the ability for multiple companies and complex supply chains to be able to share data and having that data available for the rest of time that outlives the corporate life of a particular software company, of course, is going to be extremely useful, because then it allows the decision makers to make decisions at the beginning of an asset's life cycle about how it's going to perform over the next 50 to 100 years, and then they can start to choose more radical solutions that are going to be more sustainable over time, and more efficient to build, less wastage, faster, better, cheaper, and delivering against some of those challenges that I mentioned at the very beginning of my speech. So they'll be able to choose better materials, better combinations of materials, taking work off-site, incorporating DFMA principles, and incorporating Internet of Things back indication devices to give us that real-time information about how a particular asset is working. In other words, what I'm saying is it's going to give us more surety, it'll give them more surety, it takes the risk out of their decision-making, and therefore the reality of digital twins moves ever closer. Now, a team from buildingSMART International Community, they wrote a white paper not so long back, and it was called Liberating Built Asset Information to Achieve Your Organizational Objectives. And it was aimed at senior people who are responsible for asset management of their portfolios. And we reached 8 conclusions in this team. I'm going to recall what those 8 conclusions are to you now. Executive leadership that is well informed about the possibilities of better data and confident that technology exists to bring about eventual possible outcomes, positive outcomes, needs to set the agenda. A strategic management plan for built asset information that works with software-agnostic solutions is a critical aspect of any building or infrastructure owner's portfolio. Whole life asset management continues to mature, and further adoption of the use of open data standards will unleash additional value. Evolving open digital exchange standards are a key enabler to allow multidisciplinary and inter-organizational teams to collaborate efficiently on all phases of an asset life cycle. Contractual arrangements and the legal aspects are a very important dimension of this discussion, and they should not be ignored. Moving to model as a legal document is something that's something we should probably consider during the week. And data is the enabler to value that will thrive within open data workflows and competencies. Organizational capability is essential for success. To be successful requires strategic planning, measurable goals, performance incentives, executive leadership, adoption of open data standards, deployment of new technology, education and training, and finally, adopt digital workflows company-wide by leading from the top to engage all departments and recognizing this is not something to be merely delegated to functional groups. So these are the conclusions of a group of industrialists who are working in this area with many years' experience. Now, buildingSMART has a governance structure in place that allows the community of organizations who are each of these organizations in our community are holding themselves mutually accountable to deliver improvements to our industry, despite in the fact that in real life they might be competitors, which is one of the other interesting things about buildingSMART. And within our programs at buildingSMART, the community is addressing all of the issues highlighted in those 8 conclusions. So just to finish, the buildingSMART structure allows the work to be delivered with rigor and pace, but it does need major investment. Our members are already generous with their time, their resources and their money, and we need more if we're going to maximize the efficiencies of asset management. Digital twins for asset management are an eventual outcome of an ecosystem of connected data, quality assurance and trust. So please come and talk to us if you wish to know more about what's going on, and be sure to go and see some of the events and workshops that we're running for the rest of this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. So now, just one thing I want to remember you. After the session, we will have a group photo, so please don't leave. This is a very important moment of the summit. So now we will go to the next speaker. She is a director of the asset manager of a really important company here in Italy that manage all the railway system owned by the government, owned by the state. And the name of this company is RFI. This, for us as a chapter, was really important partner. They support us actually. And thanks to them, I have to say, we could slowly become a strong community here in Italy and become also a chapter. So for me, it's very a pleasure to have here today Donatella Fochesato that is going to tell about what RFI is doing. And so please, Donatella, come.
I'm Donatella Fochesato. I'm an engineer and I'm the head of asset management department in Rete Ferroviaria Italiana. My English is not so good, so I prefer read, and excuse me for this. We are the company within the FS Group which manages the national railway infrastructure. What is our most important mission? We guarantee the access to the network railway companies, ensuring the infrastructure maintenance and safe train operations. We manage investments to upgrade the railway lines and installations. On the international front, RFI promotes the integration of the Italian infrastructure into the European network. Some of our numbers: 17,000 kilometers of network, of which almost 1,500 are high-speed lines. 9,000 trains run on the network every day. We employ 29,000 people. What are the benefits for us taking a strategic view of our assets? We manage our assets based on the ISO 55000 principle, which aims at creating value from the assets. Digital information enables effective management of the assets. We do this following the asset management policy. The ISO policy consists of an asset-centric management, risk-based decisions, a systemic view, life-oriented processes. A complex management has to consider the entire life cycle of our assets. Assets are not only technical objects, but they also give us valuable information through an open and interoperable management. How does OpenBeam contribute to value creation throughout the asset life cycle? What are the main challenges? In the research phase, OpenBeam could support RFI in the development of new smarter assets, for example, considering IoT technology, which are conceived for integrating with an interoperable digital twin. Smart training activities, implementing technologies such as augmented reality and virtual reality. This is what we are working on in order to make our processes more efficient. About design phase, For Rete Ferroviaria Italiana, the main challenges is the automation of procedures for verifying design deliverables. When we adopt open workflow and data exchange, optimize processes for a new sustainable collaboration. Realization and installation. In this phase of the life cycle, we want to create a digital twin that will control the safety condition and quality of the civil works. We are considering OpenBIM in operation phase to support a multi-level management of information that we acquired through advanced system to create a railway system model. We will achieve a better service quality by integrating information, for example, from signaling system. We want to centralize our information in a multi-level digital twin. We are developing a digital twin for maintenance. We acquire the information about existing condition of an asset using drones and other technologies. We could use such a digital twin, for example, to monitor our asset in real time. This supports an aware data-driven decision-making, and then to define predictive maintenance strategies. This would optimize asset management planning, maintenance or replacement, and lead to economic sustainability. To implement OpenBIM requires change management. In Rete Ferroviaria Italiana, we are working on define a strategy, implementing specific processes, defining specific organization, communicating effectively within the company. We established a specific BIM committee with top management and the CEO of Rete Ferroviaria Italiana in order to define an OpenBIM implementation strategy. 7 working groups to develop guidelines on OpenBIM implementation. Asset department coordinates the related activities. So what have we done so far? First, we define an internal training plan about OpenBIM. We involved about 500 people. We have certified 200 already. Then we have established a digital room where BIM methodology can be implemented through the development of specific proof of concept. We are working in collaboration with the Italian chapter of buildingSMART International and DACA software. Then definition and collection of BIM objects and models created based on RFI needs. Also, development of company BIM guidelines and standards with the support of the Italian chapter of buildingSMART International. What are the next challenges? OpenBIM implementation in Rete Ferroviaria company. Implementation of information requirements and guidelines. Integration of IT system for BIM management. Implementation of legal BIM, digitalization of the processes, for example, authorization process, development of company BIM guidelines and standards. The real challenge will be to transfer data related to our asset portfolio into real-time knowledge about our assets. In this way, we will be able to support risk-based decision-making in order to create value. So how OpenBIM is contributing to a more sustainable future? For Rete Ferroviaria Italiana, the value of the asset is achieved through a life cycle, asset-centric, systemic management, oriented towards sustainability capitals through the implementation of the OpenBIM Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Donatella. I think it's amazing to see such a giant, I mean, at least in Italy, this for us is a giant company that is moving forward to digitalization, and it's massive, the effort to make this change possible. And again, I think this could really impact to the Italian industry at least, because once there will be procurement with very specific requirement, all the supply chain has to respond to that, and so this will accelerate ultimately the digitization here in Italy. So I believe this is really, really good experience to share. And now I will give the microphone to the second Italian stakeholder of the buildingSMART Italian chapter, that is ANAS, another state company who manage all the road system here in Italy. And I may say that they had a little bit different approach, maybe, while RFI is starting from a perspective of asset manager, maybe ANAS start developing from a design perspective. So there are two very important experiences that had probably different paths. But I will leave Francesco Semeraro to explain what happened in ANAS. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me today at the buildingSMART International Standards Summit. My name is Francesco Semeraro, and I'm a technical support engineer from the Technical Management Unit of ANAS. And today I'm going to talk about the ANAS approach in using open requirements in the information management. My speech will be structured as follows. I'm going to talk a little about my company, then I'm going to talk about the importance of open formats in public procurements, and then I'm going to show you, to describe you the vision of ANAS in the digital information management of our assets, and how open standards are crucial to realize, to develop this vision. Then I'm going to talk about some activities, some results achieved, and some ongoing activities, which are with the aim to manage all our assets in OpenBIM. Well, but let's start presenting who is ANAS. ANAS is the largest road infrastructure contracting authority here in Italy, and we work both in the domestic and foreign markets thanks to ANAS International Enterprise. And since 2018, we are part of the Ferrovie dello Stato Italiane group, together with Donatella. And our mission is to strengthen Italy's strategic infrastructures, improve the accessibility of all the urban centers, and upgrade and renovate intermodal connection. Well, our aim is also to innovate and digitize all our infrastructure we are responsible for in order to improve mobility, comfort, and the monitoring of construction works. And we design, build, and operate more than 32,000 kilometers of national roads and highways, and including more than 18,000 of bridges and 2,000 of tunnels. And we are more than 6,800 people who care about the mobility of Italians, displaced between the general management here in Rome, general management here in Rome, and the 21 regional offices overseeing the entire national territory. Well, we invested over 36 billion euros in our road infrastructure in the last 5 years, and for that reason, we can say that we are a leader in the road infrastructure sector. So when we say that ANAS has decided to adopt IFC as the format, the standards to manage asset information, then we are going to say that we are in somehow we have a very great impact on the sector. So because it affects all the supply chain, starting from design services to construction works and obviously operation and maintenance activity. And now we will see why. Well, the importance of open formats in public contracts. The use of open formats in public contract is mandatory by law, and the Public Procurement Code, in fact, provides that contracting authority use the interoperable platform through open and proprietary formats. Furthermore, the Procurement Code also requires the contracting authority equip themselves with a common environment within the information workflows have to take place. So in this framework, ANAS decided to adopt IFC as the exchange format for its own asset information management. But why? First, because IFC is an international standards. So therefore it represents an international guarantee of quality using IFC. And secondly, because it represents the standard most used by professionals in the sector. So this means that is always a dynamic standard, which continuously evolve with gathering the real, in order to gather the real needs of the professional who use it. So for these reasons, ANAS actively participated in the study and adoption of the IFC format through the participation in the working groups promoted by IBIMI, the Italian chapter of buildingSMART, which today hosts this wonderful event, obviously. But let's see what is our vision about the asset management. Well, ANA's vision consists in putting the asset at the center of its business, trying to increasingly integrate design and construction activities with the operation activities. Because even if ANAS manage entirely all these processes, all these stages, they in reality are not very, are very separate as activities. So what we want to do is to perform these activities more integrated. And how? Through a platform able to collect all the information of the asset during the entire life cycle, also able to provide to all the actors in the different stage of the life cycle only the information of interest for that specific stage. And this is a very important business project. The Technology, Innovation and Digital Spoke unit of ANAS is carrying on. And we are very committed to see the results of this project. Well, at the heart of this workflow is the digital model of the asset in the open IFC format. And as you can see from the image, the use of the open standards developed by buildingSMART and adopted by ANAS is extensive and aims to cover the entire life cycle of the asset. IFC is not the only standard we use. We have also found very useful to adopt BACF, the Beam Collaboration Format, to exchange model issues, and also the Information Delivery Specification to exchange and validate information requirements. And obviously, they are not the only ones. We also use, for example, CSV for spreadsheets or ODT and PDF for texts, and other proprietary formats. But ANA's commitment is toward the future adoption of a fully open process. So we are really, we're really trying to do this. And talking about some achieved results more in detail, well, ANAS has developed a clear, unique structure and open way to share project information requirements with its suppliers, and we have called it data model. The data model describes through a 3-level hierarchical structure all the objects that needs to be modeled within a project. Well, the 3-level is represented by the facility part, and element. Then each object is characterized by a series of parameters, which are grouped by typology, for example, geometrical information, technical information, time and cost information, and so on, and then grouped by level of information need. Then the data model contains all the information needs of the company, which can be used for any kind of use. Then, during the tender, the data model is filtered for the specific project and for the level of information required, which is basically, in practice, removing some objects or some parameters from the data model, and then is shared to the tenderers via CSV spreadsheets. Furthermore, the data model, together with a specific exchange specification, with a specific document, indicates the way in which the supplier will have to export the digital model into the IFC format. Each object is translated into an IFC class, and each parameters into a set into the related property set. We currently use the 2x3 version of the format, but we are anxiously waiting for the BIM authoring software to adopt the 4.3 version of the format, which is specific for the infrastructure. Well, furthermore, thanks to we made a further step forward, thanks to a project developed in collaboration with ACA Software and Bonifica, which is a design firm. By exploiting the potential of the information delivery specification format, we have created a 100% open workflow. Through an IDS creator, we translated the information requirements into the IDS format. Then we sent all this information, all these requirements to the modeler, which, thanks to some software, some proprietary modeling software, created the BIM model and enriched the database based on the buildingSMART data dictionary. After an internal validation, performed by the modeler, then the IFC experts and the BCF experts, REBERs, are sent to the client, in this case represented by ANAS. And ANAS, thanks to the IDS validator, can perform a data validation of what has been sent. Well, all this workflow, the entire workflow, is qualitatively better than the traditional one, and obviously faster because it is semi-automated and completely open. In the focus section on the right, you can see all the open standards used during this process. Well, about the ongoing activities. Well, the participation at the IBIMI working group of IFC Road was very important for us because to understand the new possibilities of the 4.3 version of the IFC format. And the slideshow shows an example, an extract from the publication IFC Road for Road Infrastructure Design, developed by the group at the end of the works, and describes the new logical classification system structure, which finally includes the roads objects. So thanks to this work, thanks to the work done at this table, ANAS has started updating the data model, the exchange requirements in order to adopt this new version of the format. And we are also working on the increasingly extensive use of the BIM communication format in the for the control of digital model delivered by suppliers in order to improve communication and exchange processes. Well, in the bottom of the slide, you can see a short video of how it's easy to use this BCF. This BCF in a BIM environment, and what I have to say to highlight is that we noticed a significantly good response from designers using BCF, and obviously because when you use digital models, using a dynamic representation of the issues in the model, it's obviously faster and easier than a classical traditional reports. And, well, I'm concluding my speech with this sentence, which is intended to be an invitation to all those undecideds who still do not believe in the usefulness of open formats. And what I say is that ANAS has chosen IFC, believes in the use of open standards, and deeply believes that the future is open BIM. So thanks everyone for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to see how the activity of the chapter is going beneficial for all the stakeholders. So thank you very much for this presentation. So now we will go to the next speaker that is an international guest, I would say. So we are now moving abroad. And we will discuss a little bit about a topic that maybe here in the buildingSMART community is not yet been tackled, let's say. But I believe it's really something we should consider to be more active in. So I will leave the stage to Miha, that is coming from Slovenia, from LS, and we will speak about energy networking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to my first BIM event and also presenting our strategic views on asset management. Hopefully this presentation will motivate, I don't know, other companies within the energy infrastructure sector to contribute to development to the relevant open BIM standard for these sectors. So, as you probably already noticed, I'm not a BIM expert, so my background is in, let me say, high voltage equipment, overhead lines, testing, and so on. Since I joined ALS, I'm more the asset management and data analytics. And as we understand that BIM supports the digital transformation of the established processes and data management, I'm also involved into the implementation, BIM implementation within ALS. So basically, if you want to understand our needs, you need to know our company a little bit. So ALS is a Slovenian transmission system, electric transmission system operator. So we are positioned next to and interconnected to Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Croatia. You can see red 400 kV lines and green 220. Why is this important? Because on this path where we are, traditionally high loads are going from east to the west. And as we are so closely interconnected, every bigger disturbance within the network is felt on this path. And maybe one other important thing is we already share with all the neighboring countries or the companies that manage the transmission system network the standardized data formats for the network topology and parameters. So, few basic facts. We are a little bit smaller than the presenters before us. We only have 570 employees. We manage around or a little bit more than 3,000 circuit kilometers of overhead transmission lines. This means 400 to 20 and 100 kilovolts. We have 67 substations, more than 500 bays, and 36 transformers. So transmitted energy is around 13 terawatt hours. So our key activities are infrastructure management, so operation, maintenance, planning, and expansion of the existing infrastructure. Operation, this means balancing the entire electricity system and ensuring its safe operation 24/7, and also being a partner into European electricity infrastructure and market development. There are two more important facts. So electric infrastructure is classified as, let me say, critical, and we are also, let me say, obliged to public tendering. So we have 6 pillars or 6 divisions. Two, the important ones are transmission network infrastructure and transmission system operation. I'm part of the asset management and project management division, exactly Diagnostics Analytics Center. So Diagnostics Analytics Center, okay. One slide, okay. So, okay. So Diagnostics Analytics Center is a meeting point of mass data, advanced analytics, let me say technical expertise and good engineering practices that data engineers and scientists transform into the modern asset management of ALS. So here are a few shots from our promo video that you can see also on that link. Maybe into connection with the BIM, you can see 3D model, virtual reality, and dedicated dashboards that can show the data obtained through BIM, or for now, a top-down approach of the project controlling. Our key tasks are analytics to support asset management and decision making. So as a provision of the reference data, research and development, and last but not least, promotion of companies' core business. Our asset management model is based on EIM conceptual model and was adapted to ALS needs. So you can see Diagnostics Analytics Center was placed in the middle of life cycle delivery to support the asset management through all the phases of life cycle. So maybe something about the BIM, position of the BIM within our information system. This is one schema. This is not the actual case, but one of the possible solutions. So we have main pillars is the asset management system. We manage technical data and a technical asset database, work order plans, health and safety at work, linear asset management within ERP, and not but least also important, electric power system operation. We talked in a previous session about digital twins. So SCADA is some kind of digital twin without the 3D geometry. Only the data relevant to the operator is shown. But okay, yeah. This would be really good if we would have everything interconnected and automated, but we are not there yet. So we are, let me say, running a marathon. We are making small steps towards the identified goal. Okay. So I will present these small steps towards the BIM. So basically, if you don't have or plan to implement BIM, it's also good to have the structured data. So at the beginning, you need to identify data sources, structure, and data quality monitor. So that, as I mentioned, was established also for that purpose. And data request system was established as a single point of truth. So data through that is provided also to regulatory bodies. Also, data quality is monitored through the different indicators. So when we are talking about the assets, our main assets from asset management, operation, maintenance point of view is high voltage infrastructure. This means, let me say, overhead transmission lines and cables as linear assets and connected substations. We can find high voltage equipment like circuit breakers, transformers, arresters within it. One important fact is that expected life is quite long. So we have, even if you have the grid in really good condition and a lot of quite new devices, we have some transformers older than 60 years, overhead lines also. So you can imagine that quite a lot of data from the early stages of asset is missing. Beside that, new technologies are emerging due to the market, due to the, let me say, green transition. I won't mention them, but okay. So to manage the linear assets, GIS system is, let me say, also required. We manage work, inspection, findings, on-site measure, and functional testing through GIS and also through our mobile platform. And it also allows to view, let me say, public infrastructure, connect to the different data and make data analysis based on, let me say, environmental data that can be used as a rate of aging in the health index, for example. Leader scans. So we began scanning our infrastructure in 2006, and I think in 2010 we had already all lines recorded. So also substations And based on these point clouds, 3D model were built. Online 3D viewer was developed at that time that was linked to the asset management system and displaying the assets attributes. It was linked also to the findings that you can observe on the assets and also to the functional integration with the single line diagram was made within. Now the new platform is planned, but okay. Point clouds, so additional point cloud use cases. Okay, 3D visualization, virtual, augmented reality, and so on. We develop vegetation management system. So within it, we predict the growth of the trees and forecast the critical vegetation height. We can get the second and other electrical clearances verification. This can be then used in the dynamic thermal rating of the overhead transmission lines, and also point cloud is used as a current state in beam modeling phase. Few photos from the vegetation management software. So, okay, talking about the virtual reality and augmented reality, we have a demo showroom, and now I need to mention the DG-ALS project. So this project addresses the digital transformation of the ALS value chain through the deployment of the advanced analytics and open innovation. There are 8 partners in the consortium, and one part of the project is also developing the advanced platform for digital twins and introduction of the IoT and VR and AR. Connecting to the BIM, so we did in the past one high-level BIM implementation study. Now the needed documents to start the project are being prepared. So since 2025, the use of BIM for electric power lines over 110 kV and connected infrastructure within Slovenia will be required. Details are still unknown. So the first kick for the start of the BIM within our company was from the designer side. So one 400 kV substation was already designed and then constructed last year. Here is, so yeah, in the tendering documents we required simplified 3D BIM model of the equipment. And let me say, we had some problems obtaining it, so we needed to help the, let me say, the manufacturers with additional requirements. So first BIM requirements were really basic one, following the open BIM approach. The data was used for visualizations, and we wanted to obtain the structured equipment data and documents. So now the requirements are being upgraded step by step. So main focus is still in high voltage equipment. By value, this is more than, almost half of the value of all the assets, our assets. So availability of open BIM standards for high voltage or infrastructure would make our life easier at that time. But so our components and their attributes were fitted to our needs and following the same structure as in asset management system. We also constructed the table of the asset types and relevant attributes needed. And attributes table with responsibilities and point of availability was stated. Now, in the last project, we added requirements for the collaboration in CDE. One example, I talked with the producer of the transformers. Usually, this is required as one element without any attributes. We divided it to smaller elements, so bushings, instrument transformer, step changer with a motor drive and dedicated monitoring system, transformer monitoring system, and primary part with oil tank and so on. This is now simplified model of variable shunt reactor that we received. We received several models since that time, but the main goal that is before us is keeping that models alive. So if I summarize, because my time is almost over. So electric transmission system has some specifics. The development of open beam standard for the energy infrastructure would enable faster digital transition. Maybe standardized network topology information and intelligent 3D models of the high voltage equipment supporting also the part of the system operation and advanced analytics would make open beam even more appealing. And maybe cooperation with other international organizations that already connects the energy sector will be beneficial, so maybe some joint working group or something like that. So that's all from my side. I'm in time.
Thank you, Miha. Thank you very much. So that's, I think, a really important topic. As I said, also here in Italy, we had some preliminary interest from Terna. Let's see, maybe they will be interested to develop this topic here in the buildingSMART. And if anyone else would be interested to understand if it's feasible, what could be the goal, I think we should start to connect and then discuss about that. Thank you very much to bring this to us. So we are a bit tired, I guess, but we are approaching to the last speech. Then again, as I said, it's picture time, and then we will go to have a rest. We discussed about infrastructure in these first speeches, and now I think it's good to close with a more building, let's say, building topic. And that is very, I think, symbolic that we have here Norwegian asset manager, because it's like symbolically we are passing the testimony for the next summit that is going to be in Oslo. So Osmund, if you would like to come on the stage to give us some news about what you're doing in Norway. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for being invited. 20 more minutes, and then you can take a picture, and then you can run off for a good bottle of Italian red wine or a gin tonic or something. So hold out. There's a sun outside as well, so there's something to look forward to. I'm coming from Statsbygg, and I'm going to talk about the need for standardized digital information. And we are really in need for that. Statsbygg, for those of you who don't know us, we are the Norwegian Directorate of Public Construction and Property. And my name is, as presented, Osmund Skorge. I'm leading the section for design managers and within my group, also the BIM, very, very qualified BIM resources, and GIS resources. And I'm also leader of the board of the Norwegian part of buildingSMART. This is a bit facts about Statsbygg. And the 2,300 buildings, and down to the left, 80 projects a year. That's one of the considerations we have to consider when we are talking about digital information. Because not all buildings are new, far from. Total investments this year will peak high. 12.5 billion NOK about, divided by 11 makes a little bit more than 1 billion euro. So it's quite a considerable amount of money. We have some huge projects going on. Up on the top, purpose-built buildings. That's what we build, and that's what we own. We do not have any offices whatsoever. We rent our own offices. We just have special buildings. So we have a quite diversified portfolio, from new, fresh buildings to old historical buildings and monuments. The one you can see here is one of them, Eidsvoll, long time since the museum. That's where our constitution was written in 14 hectical days back in 1814. We also have the new, governmental quarters in Oslo. The middle building there was partly damaged during the terror back in 2011, where 77 people altogether were killed at that spot, on another different spot on an island. This is the new opera, or new, I shouldn't say, 10 years so. I would like to also put some emphasis on the history of buildingSMART and Norway, and also Statsbygg. Back in 1997, we had a considerable interest in what buildingSMART was doing. So in 2005, we set up buildingSMART Norway. The 4 companies mentioned here went in and became sponsors to set up the company. And Sten Sunesen was the first employee. And in 2013, and this was quite a bit milestone, the 3 first companies went out and made a joint statement saying that from 2016, we would not accept anything that BIM based on open BIM standards. And we got it. Quality, so and so, but partially we got it. The joint statement demanding open BIM was quite a considerable importance to us. The first of all was with sending a message out in the market. It was a clear understatement that our intention was that we could not have it as it used to be. We didn't want any papers anymore. Secondly, the BIM model should be based on the standards, and it should be based on the open BIM. The open BIM should also be based on the ISO, IFC, and also buildingSMART International Official IDMs, and model view definitions. So what we achieved with this? We put quite a pressure on the architects working for us, designers working for us, and the constructors working for us, and of course, they helped us put pressure on the software developers. So why do we have BIM? We have projects, new projects, new buildings being raised, and they have in common that they have a need for very efficient processes. We are wasting much too time moving papers around. We are wasting much too time with inefficient engineering processes and construction. We need the BIM to follow up everything that happened on the site, everything that happened in the construction. And we need structured, reliable, and updated digital information. And what I haven't mentioned there, this information should be easily accessible. That's very important as well. It doesn't help if you have all the information and you need 3 engineers to dig it out. That's not efficient at all. But as I said, we have 2,300 buildings already built. They all need maintenance. They all need modifications, and they all need development, some sort of development. They might get in a new client, or they just need to change it. And this has to be seen in the life cycle. We normally operate with life cycles of 60 years, but normally we tend to have quite major refittings after 20 to 30 years. And for this, we need exactly the same, structured, reliable, and updated digital information. Early BIM was very much focused on design and construction. But as we realized during the last 5 years or so, maintenance might be as important as the construction phase. Even though the investment is not as intense as in the construction phase, the maintenance part will stretch over 60 years or so. Statsbygg is involved in the complete value chain, absolutely everything. Planning, design, construction, etc., asset management. And in that value chain, we have a flow of information. And we just can't accept that each stakeholder in this value chain develop their own standards of information. It has to be based on standards, and we stick to buildingSMART. And the reason for that, there are simply no good alternatives. Simple as that. Or to put it differently, it's the best alternative. Statsbygg goals. I won't go through them all, but I will take one example. Sustainable solutions. We are expected by our owners to provide sustainable solutions. That would be impossible without digital information. To us, digitalization is just a means to achieve our goals. With a couple of examples, digitalization and sustainable solution go hand in hand. We can't possibly see that we can take the right decisions during design and construction without the right information and easily accessible information. We need, for example, performance data for energy consumptions, energy balance simulations. We could always export it to an Excel file, fiddle around with the figures, and then put it into a simulation, but that's not how it should be done. It should be done automatically. We should rely on the information already there. We also have to document reduction in CO2 footprint. We can't do that without having a standardized digitalization information to work with. We also have some regulations in Norway. I think they are EU-based, but I'm not sure. We can take a door, a used door from one project, put it into a different building within our own company. But we can't take a door from a private company and put it into our building if it's used. Then we need data sheets and proper information about that door. Data sheets is an enabler for reusing all items. That's something we also have to look into. We also see that we have different needs in Statsbygg. And when it comes to the Simba development, Simba is our, how to say it, Statsbygg's BIM requirements for the buildings, and especially the new ones. But we used to be quite design and construction-minded, geometry. But we see the needs in the end of the lifetime of the project as well. And of course, the maintenance that will last for 60 years or so, that has other needs. And of course, facility management have their needs. So what we are up to now, in this very moment, we have more or less 3 different Simba requirements. We have one requirement for the big, the huge project that we will follow up tightly. And then we have a requirement for all others to put that away. And then we have a requirement for the existing buildings that we scan and make a simple BIM model out of. The evaluation we always do is this feasible to implement? And that is probably why, it is one of the reasons that we actually came up with 3 different Simba requirements. We always have to do the cost evaluation, benefit evaluation. We will probably see in the future now that we concentrate our effort and the resources on the big projects and let the small one go and help themselves. That is the tendency. This is a BIM model of a new building, and this is a typical scanned one of an existing building, much simpler and much less detailed. This is the process for Simba. Simba is, as I said, Statsbygg BIM requirements. And with that one, it follows a process. You don't have to remember this in detail, but the important is we can check it automatically. We can press a button and it's checked. We can check the quality of the IFC files we received from the constructor or from the designer. And that is, I won't say it's time-saving. I would say the other way around. Checking it would be impossible without Simba. Or equivalent checkers. We don't have to forget about all the other stakeholders working with BIM, IFC, and also datasheet-related issues. If anyone later on tonight will be able to draw that map for me, I will buy them a gin tonic. Anyone taking that challenge? You don't have to remember it. But of course, ISO is important. The work done in CEN is important. And the work done by the local or the Norwegian, for example, standardization committees is very, very important. And it all comes into the family of standardization and standardized information that we have to deal with in our projects. So remember the gin tonic. As I said, I focus now more or less on BIM, but we should not forget the datasheets. We are completely dependent on datasheets in the maintenance, especially the maintenance. And today, as far as the practice is today, they are received on a PDF format. And that is not a very intelligent format. You can trust me on that, and I'm sure you know it as well. The problem with the PDF format is that most of this is not very easily accessible. Of course, we can look it up, but if we are going to do all the simulations and all the calculations, it's far from easily accessible. And we can't necessarily trust the information here because we don't know how it's calculated. So the information are flowing through, and we would like to have this on a more intelligent-based and easily accessible platform. PDT is probably one part of the solution that's coming up. We have started working quite heavily on that in Norway now. Product data templates, where we decide what sort of information should be in a data sheet, and how we have achieved that information, what it actually means. A typical heat calculation of a window, it can be done in quite a bit different ways. We have to know the basis for it. Have we been successful? Yeah. Partly. I will say with Simba, we have been able to automate the quality check. We save awful lot of time, and it actually makes it feasible. And with Simba, we also make ourselves consistent in quality requirements. And that is quite an achievement. When it comes to implementation in the project, as I said earlier on, 80 to 100 projects a year, quite big ones, we have to follow up. We too well know that people tend to do things as they used to do it. And that is not necessarily the last and proper way of doing it. At least we have OpenBIM, IFC deliveries on all projects, but we see a variation in quality. If we don't follow it up, we don't get it. Simple as that. We have a couple of very, very successful stories then. The last one, Viking Tid, we built a new museum for the Viking ships. It was presented in Canada this autumn. And as a result of that, and later on, we have developed automated BIM processes to be rolled out now for other new big projects. And that is quite an achievement, and it's an awful lot of saving in time and frustrations. 3 or 4 years ago, we changed our basis for the contracts. No more papers. We simply don't want papers. And we don't have any more papers now on the sites, with some very, very small exceptions, though. So now the next step, no more drawings. We will see that in a year or two, and that shouldn't be very difficult to implement. That in a year or two, I don't think we will have any more drawings on the projects. Everything will be based on the BIM and 3D. When it comes to BCF, implemented on more or less all projects now, and with very, very big success. It removes lots of frustration, and it makes all the processes very effective. Dashboards, we run dashboards in the sort of VDC way of thinking, collecting and sharing. Viking Museum is also one of the projects that we have rolled this out. Product data sheets, as I said, mainly PDFs today. There we have a lot of work to do. I also have to mention AI. We have systematically used scanning and pictures for analysis for maintenance. What we have to learn and teach the computers now what is a crack and how big will that crack have to be before it's a problem. And when it's a problem, how to solve it. Scanning of paper or product data sheets. We have collected data from all our building, 2,300 buildings, scanned them, not very useful information. Then we use AI to sort these papers. We categorize it, we name it, and we are also able to identify content like pictures, drawing. There's no limit to what we can do. I normally say that digital information is like an onion, where BIM is the core. And then you can just on layer and layer and layer. Layouts, area, cost analysis, no limits. Absolutely no limits. But you have to make sure that the quality of the core is good before you add on all the layers. This is one of the reasons we stick to OpenBIM. So, our requirements information makes us stick to IFC, OpenBIM, and the product data templates. That will be the next step for standardization. I just have to show you this one before I close. We are in a process now where actually management, even in our company, see the value of this. The value of the buildings itself are increased when we have a good quality of the building information. So, what will this lead to? Nothing but hard work, and perhaps a gin tonic later on if you can draw that map for me. We will work with standardized digital solution. I'm sure so will buildingSMART, and so will ISO, so will CEN, and all national standardization bodies. And we will hear more of this in buildingSMART International Summit in Norway, 18th to 21st of September this year. Please write down those dates, and you will all be there. So, welcome to Norway. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Osmund. I think we have some breaking news from Aiden, and then we will have our picture.
Hello. Yeah, I've got two mics. Yeah. So just before we break for the photo, thank you for the session. That was really interesting, and I think Osmund, definitely your drink is gin and tonic, right? We've got that. Before we break, we just have one more bit of news that we shared earlier, and we will invite Clive up to stage as well as Michelle Boren from CRB to just talk a little bit about the MOU that we signed with ICIS earlier. So Clive, over to you.
Great, thank you. And we really won't prolong this, but I just want to recognise, we've talked a lot today about convergence between different organisations, technology, etc. And I think this is a great example of actually how we've got two organisations with overlapping interests setting up an agreement to work together to converge towards a better future for the construction sector. So we're going to work together on specifications, trying to set up these projects at the outset to best effect. We will open our communities up to each other, and I'm really grateful, Michelle. Thank you for the support in doing so. So over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Clive. So happy to be here and to announce this memorandum of understanding. It was a long journey. I learned that it started long before I joined ICIS to bring the two organizations together. So ICIS, a lot of you probably don't know the organization. It's the International Construction Information Society. So it's an organization of the national standardizations and specification bodies. A major part of them are organized there globally. And what buildingSMART does more or less internationally, the members of ICS does it locally. So whatever is built here has to be implemented locally and then also with a local flavor. So for us, it's really a good part to bring together these local organizations with this home of the open BIM that is supported by all the organizations of ICS or members of ICS. So very, very good day today.
Well, thank you, Michel. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think after that, we'll conclude today's session. I just would like to remind everyone that, of course, we have the gala dinner tonight for those coming. And also just to check the agenda tomorrow for various sessions. So we will, of course, be back in here for some sessions, but also in the rooms which are behind us here. If you get stuck, please do come and meet a member of staff. So I would like to invite everybody who's still here up to the stage. What we're planning to do... Oh, sorry, thank you to the last speakers there. I thought that was a really great session. What a lovely continuation of theme throughout the event, from the clients to the software to the standards to the twins. Everything that we've talked about has got really nice synergy, so I think that's great. So, right, let's do this quite quickly so then we can all get off to our gin and tonics, as was mentioned earlier, or nice Italian red wine, either way. So, I guess taller ones at the back, at the front, and if we need, we will use some of these rows here. So, yeah, if you've come up to the front, that would be great.